So the hero specs are not really all that great. It is not exactly a new class and a lot of them are super generic, but the good news is that there is a ton of room for change at this stage and we could expect a bunch more to come. They had already introduced a ton of iconic Warcraft 3 classes like the Mountain King, the Dark Ranger, the Farseer. While they said classes like the Blademaster are a bit too far away for them to work as a hero spec, we could definitely be in for a headhunter, a rifleman, a warden, an alchemist, a witch doctor, a chieftain, and a few others. So what exactly are the hero talents, what are the previews that we have seen, and which of the lore classes could we actually expect to play as in the near future? While playing WoW on PC is great, you can also check in on your characters directly from your phone. With this video sponsor, Awesome, you can control your PC with your phone completely free as it is available for Windows, iOS, and Android. Check out my link in the description, download the PC version and the phone app, and just connect it. The free version itself is amazing as you can control your desktop, transfer files, but the real deal is the game version. It has custom keyboards for various games other than just WoW, and you can enjoy AFK gaming at anytime, anywhere with game sound. Make sure to use my code Doron to get 7 days completely free, only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart lock to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on pro game versions. Check out Awesome. So unfortunately, the hero talents are definitely not quite what we had expected when they were announced on BlizzCon. Like, they're kinda okay, but most of the community had found them underwhelming so far. Originally, they seemed pretty much like class skins and like very big branches of the current classes, but Blizzard actually gave us a full preview of this system on their website, and it isn't really all that robust or like super exciting. It is essentially just a bit more further specialization with a few more talents and, as Blizzard said, a boost to your current class. The hero talents have to fit 2 existing specs, and you get a tree that can enhance some of your abilities and make you a bit more than just a regular warrior or just a regular mage. However, don't despair. I don't think this is the end of it, and I think a lot more is going to happen in the future, and this isn't going to be just a few passive abilities. I think that is going to be the case for 2 reasons at the moment why more things could be happening. One is that even back at BlizzCon, they had announced a whole bunch of them, 39 of these hero specs, but they said this is the least developed of all the new expansion systems, and it is the one that is the most open to feedback. The 39 talent list is in a way a placeholder, and they're open to feedback to replace some of them. I mean, they literally said a few of these might be lame, so let us know so we can change some of them and improve on this system. So it is definitely open to feedback. So because of that, I think if we make our voice heard about it, we could get some of the most iconic classes in the game to actually become playable through this system. The second reason why I think we should be more optimistic is the trading post and all the craziness they had recently introduced with the new armors, the transmog, the gear, and just overall customization. Some classes are very iconic in their gear, and for example, we had recently gotten the whole Blademaster transmog, if you had seen it, where at least you can 100% look like a Blademaster despite missing some of the key abilities. However, mixing these new transmogs together with the hero specs and customizations could essentially be our way into some of the coolest classes out there in the game, like the warden or the shadow hunter or a witch doctor. I gotta be honest, some of the hero specs do sound a little bit lame or super generic, where you can't even guess what it means. I mean, we got a Felscar Demon Hunter, a Totemic Shaman, and Oracle Priest. I mean, this doesn't really mean all that much. It doesn't really say anything. It just seems quite generic based on the current information. However, a really good thing is that some of the most iconic classes back from Warcraft 3 were literally added through this new hero spec list, and I think we might be in for a few more. If you may have noticed, we got the farseer, which is literally a playable hero class back in Warcraft 3, which I gotta say is actually a little bit different than the regular shaman. Back in the RTS, it was mounted. I doubt that there's going to be a specialization, but this was like a different version of playable troll back in the day. We got the sentinels, which were a really unique and interesting Night Elven unit, which is exactly why I think we may be in for wardens soon as well. We got the druids of the claw, which was essentially a Night Elven unit you could actually play as. We got the dark ranger, which has been in the game since Warcraft 3, and this is what Sylvanas was, and this also combines perfectly with the recent transmog options we got, as well as the lore changes and the customization that was introduced, and this is exactly what I mean. I mean, we got some tiny lore modifications, some Sylvanas type transmog, and now a hero spec, which is not really all that robust, but with these things combined, you pretty much got a playable Dark Ranger, which most of us would have expected in the past to be a whole new class that would be announced for an entire expansion. Furthermore, we got the Mountain Thane, which is named a bit differently, but you may remember the very dwarven-themed warrior class Mountain King back from Warcraft 3, which is what Muradin was. So I gotta say, I mean, they have already done a great job on 5 original Warcraft 3 classes and adding them together with transmogs and the lore, but I think we got a few more options that could be even more exciting. Before we look into it, I just want to say some of the really interesting classes like the Blademasters probably won't be happening, unfortunately, and that is not my speculation. I mean, they literally addressed this on the original post on the website, despite the fact that we got the transmog and we could maybe get a few abilities that you can roleplay as a Blademaster. Blizzard said that there is a bit too much of a gap for them to become playable through the hero talent system. I mean, sure, you could be a Blademaster-like warrior, but a Blademaster without Windwalk and the mirror images is not really a Blademaster, so they may be saving this for an entirely new class at some point in the future. So because of that, I do think some might not be happening. Same could probably be said for Thinkers. While they could potentially work with some of the current classes as a hero spec, I just think they're a bit too different, like it is an entirely different mechanic. Also, Spellbreaker, which, well, technically related to mages, is essentially an anti-mage, and that could also be a whole new class in Midnight with the entire revamp of Quality Loss. So at the moment, I think Hunters are the most open to getting a few more options, even though some of these lore classes can be multiple ones. Now, interesting enough, Hunters got the most interesting, in my opinion, of the hero specs, the Sentinel and the Dark Ranger, but I also think they could be open to a Headhunter and a Rifleman. Both of these are super iconic, but both of them are also super race specific, with the Headhunters being strictly trolls, Riflemen being strictly dwarves, but keep in mind, we actually used to play these as units back in Warcraft 3. Now, before we get into how this could work, like what are we gonna do if this is just so much like race specific, I gotta say, this shouldn't really be that big of a problem. I mean, check out the Death Knight hero specs they had announced. I mean, they literally added a sun line from what I can see to all the Death Knights, not just Blood Elf and Death Knights. If they can make that work, I don't see why they can't make any others work as well. I mean, keep in mind, the sun line is literally a name for the vampiric, fallen blood elves, and it is literally blood elven language as well, so if they manage to straighten that out, most of the other race specific classes could work as well. Headhunter is essentially just an axe thrower. Now, I don't think a hunter needs to suddenly start throwing just axes and strictly axes, but I think we could get some interesting abilities that focus on throwing. While this is a troll class, I mean, there is zero reason why any other race with 2 limbs can do the exact same thing. I mean, it's not like only trolls can throw weapons. Same thing can be said for Rifleman. Pretty much any race can wield rifles, so why not have a specialization that is focused on just using guns? I think that could turn out to be incredibly interesting. Next on the line, we have 2 even more interesting classes, and that is the Witch Doctor and a Hexer, which are similar, sort of. The Hexer is a bit more ambiguous, but both of these are also very troll-based classes. Witch Doctor is incredibly well developed when it comes to the lore, and we even had one back in Warcraft 3 as a unit, and I think it really is quite unique when compared to a lot of the other classes. Because of that, I think it could receive the Blademaster treatment where the gap is too large, but I think it could also fit well with some classes. Technically, Witch Doctors are Priest of Sword, but very different than the light ones, but realistically, they could fit best at the moment with Shamans. With some transmogs, a few abilities, I could totally see it happening. Even more importantly, keep in mind, 39 hero specs are announced for the War Within, and almost certainly this system will get expanded upon over time, so they may be saving these troll-based specs for Midnight, while trolls will almost certainly get their spotlight through the Amani in Quality Loss. While we're on the topic of trolls, we potentially have the most relevant class, and that is a Shadow Hunter. This is a bit of a vague one. It could be anything from a rogue to a hunter to a shaman to a shadow priest, but with the right abilities, I think it can fit well. Most importantly, Vol'jin was a shadow priest. There was a whole book back in the day about him in Pandaria. We played with a Shadow Hunter Rokan, and as you may remember, we recently had some Loa lore. Troll heritage questlines are coming in 10.2.7. Even more importantly, as I said, in Midnight, we're getting trolls, we're getting the Void, so both of these themes are exactly what a Shadow Hunter is. Because of this, I think this might even be a whole new class, not just a simple hero spec. However, when it comes to strictly hero talents, we got a few smaller ones that could definitely fit. This time, looking at the rogues, we got two really interesting options, and those are the wardens and the alchemists. Wardens, I gotta admit, are a little bit different, but this is essentially my Yet, and she has been relevant until recently. This is pretty much an assassin-based rogue that pretty much has all the rogue abilities. The only specific one is Blink, but that is not really that iconic for wardens like mirror images for Blademasters, for example. The main difference is the weapon they use, but I could 100% see a warden coming for the rogues, and I think it could be the most exciting one. Furthermore, the alchemist was sort of a thing back in Warcraft 3, but I think this could be an interesting one as well, focusing on poisons and poison-based abilities, which could fit perfectly well as a hero spec. Now, while we're on the topic of Warcraft 3 classes, I think a Tauren chieftain would be incredibly interesting, seeing that they also added the Mountain King, although that might not be too iconic as we already have those abilities in the game. Next down the line, we of course always have the Necromancers, which could 100% work with the Death Knights, seeing that we got the Sunline, but as Necromancers are spellcasters and are a cloth-wearing class, personally I would want to see them as a standalone, like a whole new class that could definitely come in the last Titan, as we are going to revamp Northrend. Lastly, with all these Loon Dogs and these Loon things happening, I could also see a Night Warrior coming as well. Now, despite the fact that it is called a Night Warrior, this isn't really a warrior, it is a priest thing, but it's really a mix. It is sort of like a Night Elven version of a Paladin. I know what you may be thinking, I mean this is a Night Elven thing, but keep in mind the whole of Azeroth is interconnected at this point in time. There is no reason why any other race can't worship a Loon and harness her dark powers to defend Azeroth against all these new threats. Overall though, despite the underwhelming features and the preview of the hero specs, I think this is still a baby project, and I think we may be in for some really exciting things coming with it. Thank you for watching. Check out how Zelda time travel to Classic to bring a tune back to retail by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.